Honored to be joined by Curt Cignetti of Indiana, a man who has not even trailed yet this season. But I know you've talked to your team about when that actually might happen. What? You got the cigs for Coach Cigs?
Oh, come on now.
I'm smoking cigs, baby.
Jeez.
I'm gonna put one right. I'm gonna put one right there.
On here, I do not endorse smoking. But anyway,
no. See, there you go.
I went to the gas station today because I don't endorse smoking either, and I said, "Give me your cheapest pack of cigarettes for a prop," because I'm just pumped that you're here. I'm pumped about Indiana football, and I'm pumped about the direction of the program. So, Andy, I didn't mean to hijack you here, but it's just great to have you here, Coach.
Well, it's good to be here.
I'll go back to what I was talking about, where y'all have not trailed, but I imagine that's going to happen at some point this season. How much does it matter that you have a bunch of guys who started either at the Power 4 level or at the Group of 5 level in other places in their careers for when that moment comes?
Well, I think it comes down more to your culture and your team identity, which is made up of people. And obviously having a nucleus from JMU helped facilitate the culture. And then a lot of the transfers we brought in came from winning programs, bowl programs, teams that had been successful, 2-3 year starters. And the guys that stayed were the right kind of guys that had a chip on their shoulder. So, no, we have not trailed. You're right. But, you know, as a coach, you're preparing your team for every situation. And, I mean, you know, how are you going to respond when you're 2 scores down, 3 scores down? Because, you know, we've had teams come back and win games that were 4 scores down on the road in the second quarter. Same token, how are you going to respond when you're 2 scores up, 3 scores up, you know, because the response should be the same. You know, you're totally focused, poised, resilient, you know, in the moment, one play at a time, nothing, not affected by success or failure on the next play. But when you're in a situation where you're down, you know, you don't want to see that anxiety or frustration on the sideline. And so, you know, you do your best to prepare guys for that situation. Like you said, we have not been behind, but I'd rather be in the situation we're in now than to never be ahead.
Coach, you're in a position where you have this team in a place that, you know, it hasn't been in quite some time, right? Like since the Beatles were releasing records. Mm-hmm. And you're sending out emails telling, you know, fans to get over to the stadium. They can, you know, put off studying and to be there when you guys beat Maryland, when like the future confidence, the ability to, you know, assert that you are going to accomplish things on a level that hasn't, you know, been really common there. How do you express and find that confidence at a place where a lot of people thought it was impossible? And 2, what's it been like fostering all the enthusiasm and excitement and not just, you know, with your team, but the campus?
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, I had a lot of confidence coming in because I'd had so much success as a head coach, I guess. And I felt like I had done this kind of turnaround 2 or 3 times already. So it's just doing it on a bigger stage. And I thought it was important that I set an expectation level when I first got here. I realized I went out on a limb on a few comments, but I just detected the first day I was here how kind of a feeling of hopelessness that, you know, it can't get done here once I was here. And I felt like I had to get people excited right off the bat. Now, those are just words, but portray that confidence and expectation level that this is what we're going to do. So, you know, it's a process one day at a time, obviously, because you got to change the way people think. That starts with your team and then everybody on the outside too. You know, you're really going to change the way people think, you know, if you win football games. You know, you win one game, you got more belief and confidence as a team, and you get the fans, you know, a little bit more excited. And so, you know, every success has built upon the other. And when you talk about building a program, it's not only what you do between the white lines, but it's the support, you know, from your alumni and your fan base too are critically important. You know, we played the opening game against FIU. I thought we had a pretty good crowd when the game started. Come out at halftime, half the people had left. We had a 2-3 score lead. I was like, what's going on here? But it's gotten better every single game. And I made a comment in my press conference about it afterwards. And, we're sold out Saturday. We're sold out 2 weeks from now, 2 at home or 3. So at the end of the day, you got to produce only to grow and build. And we're trying to grow every facet of this program.
So I've heard you say that a lot since you got this job of change the way people think. Is that an ever evolving process of, because you've got a team now that clearly expects to win when they take the field. What's the next step in terms of changing the way they think to keep them developing into what you ultimately want them to be?
The next step is have a great day today. I mean, you're always working on what's going on between people's ears, because 90% of this game this time of year is mental, and you got to deal with success, or you got to deal with failure or complacency. And we're coming off an off week. Guys have had a couple of days off. We got to get back in the groove, get the edge, prepare, put the time in, the effort, have energy at practice, be detailed to give ourselves the best chance of success on Saturday. So, to me, you never arrive. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. And if you're not striving towards something getting better, then somebody's catching you. So in theory, you're getting worse. So it's a process all the time.
You mentioned at the beginning something that I thought was interesting when it came to reading the room or getting a feeling when you first got to Indiana, and you used the word hopelessness. And I think it's easy to analyze, Indiana as a job and other jobs as having a higher, step or a steeper hill to climb to get to a certain place. But before you took this job and decided to go to a place that is perceived to be a basketball school, is in a state that isn't as highly densely populated from a talent standpoint as some other states that you're going to be competing against, what did you find attractive about Indiana? What did you think the ceiling was going to be there? And when I ask you this big picture stuff as you're 6-0, but what is the actual ceiling for this Indiana program in your mind? When you get to the top, what does it look like at Indiana?
Well, look, I firmly believe this. Any P4 program with the right commitment from the top, the administration, and support can be successful. That's how it is. Most of these places in the top, let's say 15 or so, have had their down years, have had their up years. There were, you look at when Bill Snyder went to Kansas State. Now it's a while ago. They were the losingest team in college football history, and he rattled off about 6, 7, 9+ win years in a row. And there's been other people. Oregon hadn't always been a great football team. Now they have in recent history. So, you just need to have the proper commitment from the top and the right people in place in your organization, a blueprint and a plan. So, I knew Indiana, the Big Ten TV contract that they signed 1.5 or 2 years ago really caught my eye at the time. I'd played here a couple times, 1987 when I was at Rice, and 2000 at NC State. Thought it was a beautiful place. Being the son of a coach, I've always followed college football, so I knew the history of Indiana pretty well. And but I felt like I had done this kind of turnaround at a couple other places I'd been, and was confident in my ability to attract the right people on the staff and recruit and get this thing humming. We've always had really good year one success, big turnarounds year one. And after the December signing period, because my first day on campus, we had 10 offensive starters in the transfer portal, half our defense. So we signed 22 transfers in December, but they were all 2-3 year starters where they had come from, good players, high character kind of guys, the right kind of people. I felt really confident before Christmas, looking at our schedule and what we had recruited, that, we really could put a season together here. Now, I think we made progress in the winter. I thought we made progress in spring, summer, fall camp, but you still got to put it on the field. And these guys have. We're still in the middle of the race here, so I don't spend too much time looking back.
The world's #1 complete nutrition brand. This is my breakfast for this morning, by the way. Over 400 million meals sold worldwide. Yes, you heard that right. 400 million. And HUEL is trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Try it for yourself. 15% off with the code STAPLES at HUEL-dot.com. That's HUEL.com. This bottle, 400 calories, 35 grams of protein, everything I need to get my day started perfectly. 15% off. Use that code Staples at HUEL.com, HUEL.com. I heard you say that when you took over at IUP and took over Elon and also JMU, you had the old staff, you interviewed the old staff and had them rank the players on the roster 1 through 50 to figure out just sort of the lay of the land. How different is that when you get to Indiana, you get the rankings, but then some of these guys are already in the portal?
Well, I had to scratch a lot of names off that top 15. I'll tell you that, because they were already gone.
Yeah. Jeez.
But that's a roadmap, and it helps. And it's never 100% accurate. And people change year to year. They get better or they get worse. But, it's sort of a starting point. And then, you interview the old staff and you get their opinions on guys and stuff like that. So, what's the ceiling? The ceiling's whatever we determine it'll be, and there's no self-imposed limitations. I mean, if you've got a plan and a process and you do the right things daily, you can get better every single day. The margin for error in this game is very slim. And so, like, I'm not the kind of guy that says, oh, yeah, well, you can win 10 at Indiana, but that's BS. No. I mean, you prepare every week to be successful, and then you're on to the next challenge.
Curt, in the world of talent accumulation, I think it's probably a little bit easier now to, recover from what you had to deal with day one in terms of attrition on the roster, right? 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it was how good are your recruiting classes out of high school and how good is your hit percentage and how good can you keep teams or players on your team. From a recruiting standpoint, how much does a fast start in year one boost your trajectory as a coach in a program? How important is it to, convince the next set of players, the next wave of players, that Indiana is an attractive place to go? And frankly speaking, I know your famous quote of someone asked, what's your sales pitch? Well, I've won a lot. Like, I thought that was really powerful, but like, what is the sales pitch past that to people who might be skeptical of whether or not Indiana has staying power in this certain situation moving forward?
Yeah, well, nowadays with the portal, it is what it is. You have to adapt, adjust, and thrive within it, or you're not going to be in the game. In our particular situation, it kind of helped us out because I realized early on we needed a lot of new faces, and we recruited a lot of good players. Now, the JMU, there was a group of guys there that when I took this job, I never really entertained the thought right away that some of those guys may want to come. Listening to them, as soon as I told the team in the locker room, they had in their minds decided they wanted to come because they had chips on their shoulder. Like, why wasn't I recruited by Virginia Tech? And, those guys had won 5 championships in 5 years. So, we had needs. What did we have to sell? The only thing we really had to sell was sort of what we had done as a staff in the past in December. Offensively, our last 4 quarterbacks have been player of the year in the league on offense. We've had 2,000-yard receivers in the same season 2 last 3 years. Generally lead the conference in scoring. Defensively, been number 1 in the country at sacks, TFLs against the run, usually in the top 5. So those were the kind of selling points, that we had in the vision of where this program was going to go and what we thought we could get done year one, which, a lot of the guys you bring in the portal, they only have a year or 2 left. So, they're looking for an opportunity to play on the biggest stage possible, but they want to be successful too. And they got to see themselves fitting into the scheme. So I think from that standpoint, it all came together. Now we're kind of going to be in this situation again next year because of all the portal guys we had to take in December and post spring. We got to hit it hard again. But I think every year you want to take 15 or 20 high school guys because that's the foundation. The more successful you are on the field, that's going to open doors to more and more recruits that those doors may not have been open 12 months ago. But at the end of the day, I really believe this. A lot of these guys, I know you rank them 2, 3, 4 stars, 5 stars. There's not a big difference between a lot of these guys. I mean, you got to have a certain amount of ability to play here and be successful at this level. And like, to me, the character, moldability, coachability, habits, what was his upbringing like? Did he have a good mentor? Overcoming success, failure, being persistent, resilient, good team guy, good teammate. Those are really important things to me. I was a recruiting coordinator and a coach at a young age. I made my mistakes a long, long time ago on potential and talent. They got to have the right stuff. And that's what I like about those guys that are 2 and 3 year starters at these other places is, I think there's an intangible factor about a guy that's 3 years in a row he started. He's played in every game. That means he's durable. That means he's got consistency in performance. He's trusted. Those kind of guys you win with.
How did you decide that Curtis Rourke was your guy? I mean, we've seen him play in MACtion at Ohio, and it's obviously his brother was very good in the MAC as well. But what you just said, how do you decide in the speed dating process of the portal that this is the guy who has the stuff I need to be my quarterback?
Yeah, and we've had all types be successful. We've had the pure dual guy and the pure pocket guy. He's closer to the pocket guy, obviously. First of all, you get a guy like that, he's in the portal. What's the first thing? I Google him, right?
Google me, I win.
Yeah, he played a year in the MAC in 22, career stats, a lot of touchdown passes, very few interceptions, started a lot of games, won a lot of games, engineered a lot of 2-minute drives for touchdowns. You watch tape, you see a guy that can make the throws, but you can just tell on tape that he understands how to play quarterback. Some guys are wired to play quarterback. He grew up, brother was a quarterback, so he studied the position, obviously, and had a passion for it. And you could see those things show up on tape. And, after we talked a few times and he came on for his official visit, there was no doubt. We felt like, we could build around him. And, your offense is always going to change a little bit depending on who your quarterback is and, what else you have offensively. You got to be flexible in that regard. And, he's thrived. And all those guys that we've had, because the last 3 have been 1-year transfers, they all come in the first 2 weeks of spring and they struggle, and then they start to get it near the end of spring and camp. They're a different player. But you really see them. You really see what they're all about when the games start. And we've been fortunate. All these guys have kind of stepped up and played at another level.
Curt, you've been watching your team evolve week by week, right? Like every win, every success, you build on those things, right? Mm-hmm. How has the temperament in the locker room, the belief that something special can happen here evolved during this time period? And do you feel like your team is changing on a week-to-week basis for the better?
Well, I think our team I think we have a lot of confidence. But I also think that they understand, most of them, strongly understand that it is a process, and that every day, they've got to have a great meeting, a great practice. They got to put the work in, the time in, the effort. They got to have good habits off the field, get their sleep, eat right, all that good stuff, do some extra film study, and have themselves in the best position to be Saturday. That's kind of the culture. And I think we've got a lot of guys on this team that are good leaders, played a lot of football, that get that.
I know you got a lot of stuff to do. Big game against Nebraska this week. So I just want to, before we let you go, I want to let you know about the stakes of this game. There's been a thing on the internet all year with fans of different teams saying, if my team loses, I'm going to. This one might top them all. This person named Scarlet and Cream says, if Indiana beats Nebraska, I'll shove an ear of corn up my ass. So just those are your stakes, Coach. That's what you're dealing with at noon on Saturday.
That wouldn't feel very good.
It would for you, though. Coach, thank you so much.
I'll see you. Thanks, guy.
Thanks, guy. Appreciate you.